Codex, Torah, and grandparents. Never see it on the camera. Afternoon, guys. Almost evening. It's a beautiful evening here. It was sunny all day. Melted off some of the snow. Try to keep this going here. How are you guys doing? Alright, so I got a video today for you of using the lighter. Cheater. And that is why you don't use the lighter on a cigar. Getting low. Alright. So the first one, it's been rattling around my brain for probably since about the inauguration. And things possibly going to hell again, even worse than before. I've got a grandparent locally, thankfully enough, in a great place which happens to be like 5 minutes from my house. But with the COVID lockdowns and restrictions, it has not been any better than any other place, and it's hard to get into. That said, we have them on hospice, which anyone who's had a family member in hospice over the past 10-15 years knows it's much more than it used to be, where it was, okay, this person is about to be on their deathbed, let's put them there for the last few weeks of life. No, hospice is a whole new system now with different levels of care. My grandfather is essentially on an early hospice care system now, and we've had him there for about 2 months. He's able to stay where he's at because they come to him, because it's essentially just an extra caretaker, which is great, because with COVID and everything, the place he's in is great. They have so much amenities for him. He could still live life in there. It's like a small city. They have bars, and with him being assisted care, but he's been in there just under a year now, and his assisted care quality, like, he should have been at assisted care level, but he has really declined because he's not been able to do anything all year. And visitation was very limited to none to limited to none to limited. Once we got him on this hospice assisted care sort of thing, whatever the actual term for it is, we're able to go in whenever we want. Still just 1 or 2 people at a time, but as often as we want, as many people a day. And the people in there, they feel bad about it. They don't want to be making these rules, so they don't really mind. They're like, yeah, and they kind of turn the other eye, as long as you don't like interact with people you don't know and do something they have to enforce, or they'll get in trouble. Otherwise, they're like, dude, it's your family. So once you're in, they don't care. Can't neglect this. It's looking ugly. Keep moving. So they don't really care. Nonetheless, it's difficult. And why it may not be hard to get in there, I mean, if I want to get in there, you ain't stopping me. You ain't stopping me from seeing my family. There's no right. Am I physically doing harm to my family? No? Then, unless it's something you have to get protective services involved, do not get between me and my family. You have no right. Sorry, people. So, nonetheless, my question is, I guess, and since it's not very difficult, I think the question actually changes. Real question is, what would you do? How would you go about it? If things went to hell and you need to get your family member, because again, it's not hard to get my grandpa. The hard part is getting him in and out of there quickly. Now, if I had to push him, I'll push him. But that's not necessarily what you want to do, because that's not good. And we kind of feel the need to move them along quicker when things are normal just because they're taking too long, and then you have to, don't be a dick. Remember, he's old. Okay, just because you're frustrated, and part of that frustration subconsciously is you don't want him to be this old, right? It sucks. So, yeah. So, what do you do then? And what if the people don't want to let you in? First of all, it's easy to get in there. You just kind of have to follow procedure and protocol, but physically, there's nothing actually stopping you from getting in. There's 2 doors, automatic doors. You just pull them open. And there, 90% of the time, there's actually no one at the station right inside the door, because that station is really just to check in the station that they set up due to COVID. It's just an entrance. The real stations are in the same place. The nursing stations are still down the hall. There's rarely ever anyone even at the entrance. The main entrance has a giant lobby and bar area, so there's always people around there, including staff members in this facility. So again, getting back to the question, if things went to hell, if things got squirrely and went sideways today, you've got an old folk in a home somewhere, whatever that means, what would you do? How would you face that? You've got a dilemma, because should you go get them? You probably have other people to care for and provide for and protect as well, right? I think the old person who's not gonna have anything left to contribute in life, and probably, if they're in the right mind, or if even if when they used to be, they would probably say, no, you have more important people to worry about. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. Go. If you get a chance to come back from me, then do it that way. But otherwise, leave me. Okay. If you're anything like me, if you're a halfway decent human being, you're probably going to be like, okay. And then you're going to ignore that and go anyway. Go after them. So me, nothing's stopping me. I'm getting in there, getting my grandpa, getting him out. I'm not going to go into detail. Plan doesn't matter. The question is, do you have a plan? What are you going to do? What do you do? And if they try to stop you at the facility, what would you do? Are you going in armed? Would you pull those arms out? Would you pull and threaten people? Are you willing to lose yourself? Are you going to sacrifice who you are so quickly at the very beginning? And if there's a time to do it then at the very beginning, I guess, and forgive and forget later. And better to do it then than later when you're truly desperate for food and you kill a family over food. That's in the same place you are. Better to do it for something small like that at the beginning. Not really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're not going to harm a person. It's a nurse. You're not armed. And you're not willing to kill someone for no real reason yet, like it would be down the road. So more than anything, it's going to end fine. You're going to pull your piece and they're going to listen and nothing to worry about. And you'll probably be able to move on, no problem. But still, are you willing to lose that part of yourself for no real reason right at the very beginning, when there's no reason to shed yourself of those morals and values yet, of your ethics yet? Are you willing to part with yourself so quickly? And yes, again, that's the time it's needed most. And the sacrifice of yourself you make will be so small, because again, that won't turn into anything violent, most likely. But you need to get out of the city right the hell now. And again, that comes back to if you're still in the city, problem. But who knows, maybe you're not. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're capable to take care of your older loved ones out in the country, outside of the city. They may still need to be in a facility, which is at least going to be in the burbs, right? And I let it go too long. That's what happens. So question 1. You have an older family member, loved one, a grandparent in a home somewhere. If things go sideways, what are you going to do about that? What's your plan? Do you have a plan? How are you getting them out of there? Okay? Doing that wrong, but oh well. This is an old cigar that the wind was killing me with a few days ago, so I couldn't keep it lit, and now the damage is done, so it's hard to get it. Someone's scorched a little bit. Much better. So, and then something towards the beginning of the week. 2, Torah. Point 2, Torah. If you were raised in the church, or even if you weren't, you probably heard an old adage, nobody, which is something Christ said, nobody comes to the Father except through me. Essentially, he's saying he's going to vouch for you, but you have to go through him. He'll vouch for you if you have him. If you got his back, if you've done what he's called you to do, which is what the Father calls you to do, then he's got your back. That's usually translated, oh, were you saved? Did you know Christ? Did you accept him into your heart? None of that's untrue, by the way. None of those, that's not, no one's saying that's not what it says. But something popped in my head towards the beginning of the week about what Christ is and was, right? And the Word. What is Torah? Torah is law. Or book of laws, or however you want to translate it. The law is based on and around the Word. The law is the Word. A nation that feared and followed Yahweh, naturally they made their actual laws, the exact laws that Yahweh gave them. Or within their society, right? Alright. So, how can you not believe Christ? How can you not, when you think of it this way? The Word is law, and the law is Torah. Well, Christ was the Word. So, those of you who say, oh, Hebrew readers, Torah observers, way followers, that's not, because there's people, most of the Christian community see people like the Bear Nation, those that follow Yahweh, those that follow the original word in the original context of God, because their beliefs are being challenged and they realize it doesn't make sense. They're like, oh no, that's not, it's New Age, yeah, none of those rules apply anymore. Really? Because in the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. What was Christ? The Father, the Creator, God, made flesh. What was Christ? He was the Word made flesh. Because the Word is Yah's Word. It's His laws, His rules. And if Christ was God made flesh, then Christ was the Word, and God is the Word. So all these things mean you have to know the Word, and you have to follow the Word and live by the Word. Nobody comes to the Father except through me, except through Christ. Yet, if you're a Hebrew rooter Torah observer, you have to know the Torah and must follow Torah and enact and carry out Torah to make it to heaven, essentially. To make it to heaven. But to serve the Father and enter your reward at the end, enter paradise. And we got two sides of the Christian community saying the other side is not true, is false, is inaccurate. Really? Because it kind of seems like they go together. It's just, again, the modern translation of the modern church is wrong because you're taking it completely out of context. So what you're saying is the inaccuracy. It's not about Christ. It's about Christ is literally the Word, and we are told and called to follow the Word. Just modern Christianity doesn't mention Christ saying follow the Word. He's saying know me, follow me, accept me into your heart. Do what God commands you, Father God, and accept Him into your heart. And He's knocking on the door of your heart, and He wants in. So that makes it sound, but it's the same thing. Just their translation is totally incorrect. But they're saying the same thing. They just don't realize it. Follow the Word to serve the Father and enter into His kingdom. Well, it sounds to me like Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, was the Word, right? So I think those who choose to follow things in the old context, the accurate truth that Christ preached and the Father gave us, I think they are correct. Because if you follow Christ, you're following the Word. No one comes to the Father except through me. Well, in order to do that, you have to stick to His Word. Right? So, the Word is truth. Follow and observe the Word, aka Torah. All right. So then what? Point 3. What was 3? Oh, yeah. Codex. Did I say Codex? I might have mixed up my points at the beginning. Points were essentially your grandparents, how to get them out, old folks, Torah, and then Codex. I was looking up Codex. A lot of old laws of old societies are in Codex. Fictional societies, Codex. You look at Mandalorian, this is where I kind of got an idea for this point from. Mandalorian, the series. The Mandalorian culture in Star Wars. They follow a Codex, which is pretty much like a book of societal laws based on values, right? An old primitive society, and they have last long enough to strive and evolve into something great and advanced. And well, those values, they only take care of themselves. Not that they're not willing to help, but they don't get involved in needless things around their universe, around the world. Right? They stick to themselves unless there's a good reason to get outside of their own people. It's interesting. You look at the word codex, look up the definition. Codex literally means, by definition, book of laws. Book of laws. And in the original Latin, it translates literally to tree trunk. Tree trunk. Now that's interesting. What do those two things have to do with each other? Nothing. So how do they get Book of Laws from tree trunk? Unless in the old Latin, they maybe had Book of Laws written on a tree somewhere. These are our laws, very primitive, very old worldly variation. Don't do these 10 things. Let's use that as an example. Don't do these things. Very simple. Don't do this list of things that we've carved into this tree or put in scrolls or old books and placed inside this giant tree, hollowed out tree. Codex. It's interesting. What was Christ? Christ was the Word. Christ was the Word made flesh. He was the Father made flesh. But more importantly, the more important translation, he was the Word made flesh. And he came and died on a tree, on a stake made from a tree. He was literally put on a tree, sacrificed on a tree. The word of the law came. He didn't come to undo the law. He came to fulfill it by taking the punishment that the law says we deserve. Taking on all the sin, becoming the sin and dying. Because sin is put to death. He put sin out of the camp. He was literally nailed like a plaque of rules to a tree, written, posted on a tree. So that's interesting. Now I looked that up this morning because I've been thinking about creating a book of rules, not adding or taking away to the word, not creating my own rules, but I'm just going to take everything I know, the 613 laws, aka Torah, the 613 rules and laws of Moshe, including 10 commandments and kind of other things you can take away from Christianity and Torah observant based Christianity and Christ fellowship. And just good Christ-like values for raising your children, and just good, and lifestyle choices and lifestyle rules kind of based off that. And I think a lot of us would more or less agree on. And I'm going to put it together in a book. It's it's going to be a rough pamphlet from the beginning, and maybe I'll then try to make it into an actual physical book. And at first it's going to be a printed out guide, right? Stapled together, but and then maybe some point I'll print it out as an actual book, but that'd be cool. And just call it the Codex of Christ or something, or just things to live by based around Torah. Anywho, so I just thought all that was really interesting. I'm going to finish this cigar instead of neglecting it and letting it go out over and over again. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.